Good morning. Today we hear words passed down through generations from the book of Numbers, which is the fourth book of the Old Testament and talks a lot about the journey of the Israelites to the Promised Land. Let us listen to these words of the Spirit. God's anger was kindled because he was going, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the road as his adversary. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. The donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. So the donkey turned off the road and went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to turn it back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards with a wall on either side. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it scraped against the wall and scraped Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck it again. Then the angel of the Lord went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to either turn to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand. I would kill you right now." But the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, which you have ridden all your life to this day? Have I been in the habit of treating you this way?" And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed down, falling on his face. The angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? I have come as an adversary because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let it live." Hear what the Spirit is saying. Thanks be to God.
On October 31st, 1517, some 508 years ago, Martin Luther went to the door of a church in Germany, rolled out a scroll of 95 things that he wanted to see the church do, and nailed it to the church door. This was important. This was a moment within, not only within Christian history, but within all of history, where people began to push back on the church. Within these 95 theses, one of the things that Martin Luther pointed out that he thought was extremely important was that the Bible needed to be translated into everyday language. He didn't think the regular people who would walk around outside the church could read Latin. He was right. He wanted it to be translated into German. And out of that, this Reformation began to take root, where the church began to change who it was. We would see it later, as the Reformation continued, when King Henry wanted to get divorced. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, a couple of times is what King Henry wanted to do. But the Pope wouldn't let him do it. So he started his own church, which became the Anglican Church. Out of the Anglican Church, John Wesley said the church needed to be outside the walls of the church, treating people kindly and with respect, to take the church outside of the 4 walls of the church and into the fields where people could hear the word, where acts of service weren't something that you just did because of guilt, but because you believed that God was calling us to do this. Out of the Anglican Church birthed the Methodist movement that we have today. The words and phrases that we use to identify Jesus as king, as Christians to be soldiers, to be recognize that Jesus is the Prince of Peace, are words that we and phrases that we can only use because of this movement by Martin Luther. The hymns that we sing with their rich, deep theology have only come about because of our understanding of being able, as ordinary people, to read the Bible. I mean, the song Amazing Grace is a song that I'm sure everyone has either heard at least once or sung it at least 100 times. It was written by the captain of a ship who needed grace within his life because he recognized the cargo that he transported across the ocean across the Atlantic, only brought about pain and division. Yes, a slave boat captain wrote Amazing Grace because he too needed grace. So out of all of these amazing things that Martin Luther began with the Reformation to take us towards here today, brings us to this sermon series where we're talking about fantastic beasts and where to find them. Because why don't we talk about these weird animals in the Bible? Or how many times have we heard the story of a talking donkey? Now, people of a certain generation, some of whom are gathered here today, have seen a talking mule before. Because you've been raised on television and that famous actor, Mr. Ed, led us to know that animals can in fact talk, and they do talk, and they share wisdom, and they tell us all of these things as clearly as we can possibly hear. I wonder where they found this great horse that could actually speak and could talk to people. And why haven't we found one since then? Wait a second. I'm being told that that was a voice actor and not an actual talking horse. All right, same generation, stick with me, television. Lassie, right? Lassie always knew where Timmy was. Lassie could always save somebody because Lassie was smart like that. Girl, where's Timmy? Oh, Timmy's fell down the well. You've told me this, Lassie, right? Wait a second. I'm being told again that this was a trained dog, and that, Mark, you're making a fool of yourself because there's nothing in your ear. Talking animals. For those of us who have been around pets, for those of us who have owned pets, we know that animals talk to us. They let us know when it's time to get up. They let us know when it's time to go out. They let us know when the fireworks are going off and the thunderstorms are rolling in. They also sense in us when we've had a bad day. They know when we need companionship. And they remind us that we are bonded to many different things in life. So it's no surprise that when Balaam was on his donkey one day, the donkey did its best to bring about attention to something that was in the road ahead. Now, Balaam, whom we don't talk about too often because he's only within 2 chapters of this entire library of books that we call the Bible, was a prophet. Prophet means they talk with God, and God asks them to relay things. But there's one thing that's important about Balaam that we need to name up front. And that Balaam was not an Israelite. See, we're in the Hebrew Bible here. We're in the Old Testament here. So this is before Christianity was a thing. But Balaam was not an Israelite. He was from Mesopotamia. He was not part of God's chosen tribe. And yet God still spoke to him. You see, what Balaam was up to on that road that day is that he and a couple of his companions were walking down the road to go to where the Israelites were and to curse them. Curse them in a way that made them believe that they were unloved and that bad things were going to happen to them. But on that road, God stood before Balaam in a way that only God could. God came as a messenger with a big cloak over his head and a sword on his side. And as this messenger stood there, the donkey saw it from a great distance. Now, my dog has a little bit of shepherd in her. A lot of shepherd, really. Got about half Australian shepherd in her. She will tell me when I'm going the wrong way. She will take her butt and throw it into my side and say, go this way. We're going this way. And I'll say, no, we're going this way over here. Whenever the children are acting up, she'll go and nip at their toes and take their socks away. So I recognize in this moment, the donkey saw something in the road and began to take itself and run itself into the wall. Balaam, not paying attention to what was going on, said, what are you doing? We're going this way. I need to go see the Israelites. I need to curse them. Stop it. Donkey rights itself and then starts to slide back over into the wall. So Balaam hits the donkey. You can't do this. What are you doing? This happens 3 times, like everything else in the Bible. We always repeat things in 3s. Until God breathes something into the donkey, and the donkey turns around and says, Balaam, quit it. And I think at any point we would say the same thing. Okay, I'm listening. You see, it's because Balaam knows this donkey so very well. They've gone on journeys together over mountains and down into valleys. They've slept next to each other. They've been partners in walks and journeys, so much so that they know each other down to a T. But even owners of dogs sometimes know we ignore when our dogs want something or are trying to tell us something. I think that's where we find this fantastic beast. We find this fantastic beast in places where we least expect it, but it's right there in front of us. It's a reminder that sometimes the best people in our lives are also animals, nudging us to go in different ways. It's a reminder that sometimes we need a donkey to yell at us, to set us on the right path, no matter how many times we've been nudged, and urged to go a different way. You see, the point of this story, the ways in which we ask questions about the Bible, which we always should be doing, is that when we miss 3 nudges, God's going to step in and be even louder than we ever expected. That it's going to catch us off guard. But it's also going to show us that we had opportunities before in the past to make the changes that we needed. Not to dwell on those opportunities, but to right the road. And to know that God will meet us when God needs to meet us. You see, because I can guarantee there's at least, 2 people here, maybe some more, who've been struggling with some difficult questions in their life right now, who are wondering which way to go. And if you're not struggling with those things right now, I know in the past you've put together a spreadsheet or a list to decide whether to do column A or to do column B. And what this story here is to remind us is that sometimes there are people in our life, there are animals in our life that are gently nudging us in the right direction. And that sometimes we overlook them because we think we know the answer. When really, those people there are there to help us in the end. So Balaam really was surprised at this opportunity to talk to his donkey finally. I mean, for some of us here, I know we have the opportunity, we have the skills to be able to have conversations with animals. But I also know that sometimes we don't listen to them. It's a gift to be able to be bonded to something else. It's a real gift to be bonded with somebody who knows who we are. It's a gift when they see the good that is within you and they want you to go by a different path. These are people who see the good in us and want the best for us. It's because of these things that God continues to step up and help us when we don't know where we're going. It's because of these things God continues to shine a bright light when we need a bright light. So this week, friends, I encourage you. Sometimes the signs of God being in your life will be as gentle as a nudge. Other times, they'll be as loud as a fire alarm. It's in these moments that we need to stop and pause, to hear where God is calling us to be, and to set ourselves on the right path, to do good within this world. Amen.